Map on the Train by Max Jones, Episode 2. Janice began to squash her massive body between the bench seat and the edge of the table. As she was doing so, one of her unfettered breasts caught the map and scrunched it up as she squeezed herself into the corner by the window. Terrified that the fold lines in such an old map would be torn open by her free-range chest, Peter tutted and pulled the map gently away from her.
Move somewhere else,
his mind screamed.
Rory! Callum! Anne!
The two boys came running back up the carriage and piled onto the seat next to Janice. They leaned on the table, on his map on the table, and their hands stuck to the delicate paper as they both assessed Peter closely.
"Be careful!"
he shouted. Janice snapped her head up and stared at him, narrowing her eyes. She paused and said quietly, without taking her eyes off Peter,
"Now, boys, be careful of the man's wee paper."
Both boys slowly, deliberately, took their hands off the map. Callum picked his gun off the seat and pointed the muzzle at Peter. He nodded at his brother, who did the same.
"It's a map."
Be careful of the man's wee map, then.
"Look, wouldn't you be more comfortable with the table to yourself? Have more space so the kids can stretch out. Seems silly to be crowded in here."
Oh, no. We've plenty of room here, thanks.
Janice said brightly and smiled as she continued to fold her bulk around the edge of the table. Sandra appeared with the baby still on her hip. She plonked him next to Peter, dropped the wet wipes in front of Janice, on the map, and then sat. The baby looked up at Peter fixedly. All three boys now staring. Midwich cuckoos.
"Well, I'll move then. Give you some more room."
Oh, no. Wee Davy doesn't like to be moved once he's settled. He cries a lot. And I mean a lot.
Aye, does he?
Screams. Like after a couple of hours, you'd think he can't keep that up any longer. And then he does. Hee.
Aye, does he?
If you move him when he doesn't want to be moved, well, it's non-stop.
Aye, is it?
All night. And loud.
All night, aye.
Janice sucked her breath through her teeth and shook her head.
Aye. You'd hear him all over the train until we get to Mallaig. No stopping him.
"Christ, really?"
Aye. You don't want to mess him about if you want any peace for the next hour.
"This is ridiculous. Let me out. You've only just sat him down. It can't be settled yet."
Sandra reached a hand towards Peter and rested it on his arm.
Please don't.
She said quietly. Her eyes, magnified behind the glasses, looked at Peter as if they were forming tears. If he moved, and wee Davy did indeed start screaming all the way to Mallaig, he'd feel like it was completely his fault. Could he take the chance? The panic grew. Bile rose, burning his throat and leaking into his mouth. He swallowed hard.
"This is ridiculous. Completely ridiculous."
Aye, it is.
Aye, is it? Sorry. Appreciate you not moving. Kind of you.
He sat back, feeling impotent rage at his defeat. In one way, he didn't believe that wee Davy would care if he moved. But his years of awkward humiliation, not understanding people, stopped him. The object of concern looked up and then did the thing that Peter feared most. He raised his arms towards him in an obvious ask to be picked up. Peter ignored him and looked out of the window. Davy dropped his arms and instead banged the edge of the table with both hands. Janice looked at him, then Peter, and shook her head.
Once we're all settled, there'll be plenty of room.
"But there's plenty of room anyway. Look at the rest of the carriage. You could sit almost anywhere."
Janice smiled again.
Well, It looks like wee Davy likes you, so it's best you stay with us. Otherwise, well, you know.
Wow, hours and hours of it.
Aye, Willie.
Janice located the wet wipes and slipped one from the pack. She pulled the loose front of her dress outwards and plunged a hand down between her breasts, scrubbing away at first one, then the other.
Oh, that's better than a bath.
The used wet wipe was hoisted from the depths of her dress. Janice held it in front of her and looked for somewhere to put it. Peter continued to stare out of the window, and so Janice finally discarded it onto the top corner of Peter's beloved map. It started to expand and unfold. Scented water, blended with Janice's sweat, soaked into the decades-old paper.
Oh, for God's sake.
He pulled the map towards him and shook the wipe off. As he lifted the map, wee Davy made a grab for it, caught the bottom edge in one tiny fist, and pulled. The map tore in half along the centre fold in an instant.
No!
Oh dear.
My map! How could you? Look at what you've done!
He demanded of wee Davy, who appeared confused, and looked to Sandra for explanation.
Did you make a wee tear in the man's map? Did you? Did you?
An attentive Davy giggled, and with much jerking up and down of his arms, agreed that he had indeed put a wee tear in the man's map.
It's over 70 years old, and now it's ruined.
Janice took in a breath.
And if you're about to say, well, at least it wasn't new, then don't. Just don't.
Now wasn't he? Anyway, Davy's sorry. Aren't you, Davy?
Izzy? Aren't you, wee man?
He just saw something moving and wanted to stop it. See what it was.
Aye, did he?
Now you've got two maps.
It's what babies do. You shouldn't wave things in front of his face if you don't want him to grab it.
I didn't wave it in front of his bloody face. I was trying to put it away. Oh, look at it. It's ruined. Christ, my map. My beautiful map.
Well, as I say, wee Davy's very sorry. Aren't you, Davy?
Wee Davy had found a hole in the seat material and was now engaged in pulling loose threads out and tasting them, so couldn't answer.
A bit of tape and it'll be fine.
No, it won't. It won't. It's been in my family since the 50s. And now, in 5 minutes, your bloody baby has ruined it.
There was silence. Other people in the carriage were turning to look at him, shouting, disturbing what should have been a quiet place. Peter began to see himself through their eyes, shouting at a woman and a baby. He folded the ruined map and placed it on his lap, his hands resting on top. The map his father had given him. The reason he decided to go walking here, to follow in his footsteps. Destroyed. Gone. As he reflected bitterly, the door at the end of the carriage opened again, and an elderly couple entered. They were overdressed for the weather, he in a navy blue jacket and tie, she in a tweed twinset. He paused, holding a silver-topped walking stick in front of him, and turning his head slightly whilst looking up and down the carriage, studying everyone in turn. Although Peter estimated his age to be mid-70s, he walked with a straight back, polished shoes, trousers razor-sharp. Peter immediately named him Colonel. He noticed the obvious chaos at Peter's table with a look of disdain and quickly funneled his wife into a table for two near the door at the far end. Lucky bastard, Peter thought. He can escape. Then Janice began sniffing loudly.
Sandra! Sandra! Has he kicked his pants?
She indicated wee Davy.
I don't think so.
Check, Sandra. If he has, it'll be like cement by the time we get to my leg. I'll be needing a hammer and a chisel to change him. If we block the shower again with wee Davy's doo-doos, The landlord won't be happy. Miserable sod.
Sandra checked by the simple expedient of picking wee Davy up and turning him upside down. She pressed her nose between his padded cheeks and inhaled deeply. Baby's upside-down face swung inches from Peter's. Davy looked solemnly at Peter before extending a pudgy finger like lightning and poking it straight into his eye.
Oh, Christ!
No, he's clean.
Ah!
Oh, that's okay then. Something smells off though.
Janice sniffed her underarms and then looked at Peter.
My fucking eye! He just poked me in the eye!
Sandra dropped wee Davy back onto the seat, where he immediately continued his quest to expand the hole. Callum and Rory started snorting and holding their hands in front of their mouths, falling against each other as they suppressed their laughter at the expletive.
Don't use that type of language in front of the weans.
It's fucking eye!
Rory yelled, and he and Callum's laughter exploded as they both fell off the seat laughing.
See?
She said to him.
Callum, Rory, I don't want to hear that word again. The man is very bad.
I'm bad. He just poked me in the eye. In the eye.
The Colonel turned in his seat and looked at Peter's table. He declared loudly,
"You'd never know this was supposed to be the quiet carriage."
He pulled a large newspaper off the table and shook it open ostentatiously.
"I thought we might be able to get some peace and be able to enjoy the view." Ha!
What view? Of his paper?
Rory McGregor, once more, and it'll be your wee arse that's sore.
She turned to Peter.
See what you've done?
What I've done?
I potty poo mouth.
Potty poo! He pooed in a potty!
Rory then made a long, squelching noise with his mouth, presumably to emulate poo being deposited in a potty. This caused Callum to hold his sides and bang the table, shaking with laughter. They both competed to see who could do the loudest and wettest pooing sounds.
Your baby nearly removed my eye. And you're blaming me?
Potty poo mouth! Poo in his mouth! Stinky poo breath! Poo muncher!
Callum did fall off the seat at his brother's comedy genius then. He lay in the aisle, laughing and holding his stomach. Sandra leant down, cuffed him sharply on the ear, and then pulled him back onto the seat by his shirt collar. Callum rubbed his ear where Sandra's hand had landed and shouted at her,
Stinky poo cow!
Sandra raised her hand again, and Callum shrank back, silent. He heard the Colonel again.
Did you hear that? Out of control. Out of control. Parents have no idea nowadays.
Janice rounded on Peter.
Oh, wisht. Removed your eye. Pah! Babies explore. Don't stare at him when you're inches away with your eyes wide open if you don't want him to poke it.
I don't believe this. You're blaming me?
Peter's eye was watering freely.
This is insane. And anyway, I thought you couldn't move him.
It's okay if you catch him by surprise and turn him upside down. He likes it.
Davy, who seemed aware that he was under discussion, looked around and then turned to Peter and nodded. He then bounced himself up and down, arms waving and moving towards the front edge of the seat until Sandra pulled him back. Callum and Rory had subsided into occasional sniggers, supplemented by urgent whispering to one another, followed by more giggles.
Careful, wee man. We don't want you falling off the seat and banging your wee head now, do we?
Peter wouldn't have minded. There was a sudden jolt, and the train began to move forward. Off at last, Peter watched as the station at Fort William slowly passed the window, and then countryside appeared as their speed steadily increased. The view seemed to move out and away from the train windows as the land flattened into plains and mountains appeared in the distance. He felt himself calming. His stomach was oddly relaxed. bearing in mind the situation, and his mouth was free of acid. After a while, he noticed that Janice was watching him.
What?
You seem quite an angry person.
No, I'm not.
He shouted angrily.
Or I wasn't until you forced your way onto my table, imprisoned me here, ruined my map, let your baby poke my eye out. Before that, I was in quite a good mood, actually.
I don't think you're ever in a good mood. Shame for you. Still, you did give the boys a laugh. Rude words and poo are like catnip to a wee boy. And you've covered both.
She smiled and put her hands on top of her belly, which was pressing hard into the edge of the table. A sudden thought struck her.
Sandra, I'll need to give them their juice.
Unintentional. Look, I just wanted some peace.
Janice looked at him and then out of the window.
Oh, aye.
Sandra had already got up and made her way back down the carriage to where she had stored the bags earlier. She pulled out the top one and dropped it onto the carriage floor. The Colonel flicked his broadsheet paper as she walked past, and then declared in a loud stage whisper,
They can't go for 5 minutes without something stuck in their mouths these days. And then parents wonder why they're all obese. Stuffing something into their mouths 24 hours a day. If you can get them off their X-Pads. And what is it? Facebooks?
There was a murmur of agreement from his wife as she noisily flicked over the glossy pages of a thick magazine. Sandra pulled 4 juice packs from the bag and then put the bag back in the rack. She gathered them up and walked back down the carriage. The Colonel was watching her over his paper.
More sugar. As if they weren't unruly enough.
Sandra stacked the juice boxes in front of her, and with each one, pulled off the plastic straw, undid the wrapper, stabbed the straw into the drink, and handed one to each of the boys. Davies she held for him, and he bowed his head and connected with the straw. He sucked noisily and began to flap his arms and bounce again. It struck Peter that Sandra never wasted a single movement. Everything was done with purpose and supreme dexterity, as if she had instantly worked out the quickest way to get something done and was following a plan. He stared at her small hand as she held Davy's juice box and tidied away the discarded plastic wrappers with the other. The wrappers she stuck into her pocket. Throughout, Peter noted that Janice narrated Sandra's actions as if she were performing them herself.
I like to give them their juice at the start of the journey, so we have time to go to the toilet before the other end.
The train rolled on. After 20 minutes of quiet, Callum fell asleep so quickly it was like a light being turned off. Sandra got up to grasp the still half-full juice box which was falling from his hand and set it on the table. Rory stared at the passing landscape, excited, as if he were waiting for something. Wee Davy also fell asleep, his head nodding downwards as he crumpled. Sandra rearranged him to lie on his side with his head in her lap. Nobody now had need of her, so, like an attentive servant, she sat back and stared into space.
I love them to bits, but the best time is when they're asleep. Or I am.
Aye, is it?
Callum began to snore. Rory nudged him in the ribs, making him shift to lie across Janice, who put an arm around his shoulders and hoisted him to rest against her. Annoyed by Callum's feet pushing against his leg, Rory moved to sit in the empty seats behind and stared out of the window. Sandra, after checking where he had moved to, resumed her silent contemplation of the empty space directly in front of her.
So, what brings you to Scotland then? You're a walker, I suppose.
Aye, is he?
Yes, I'm a walker.
Aye, another one. You canna move in Scotland in the summer for wee wandering willies going about.
Yes, well, it's going to be a bit tough with my map in 2 pieces.
Oh, let it go. We Davy didn't mean to hurt it.
Nevertheless,
So why do you go walking?
I enjoy it. Why else?
Aye.
I like the peace. I like being alone. I'm not good with people.
Shocker.
She turned to the window and smiled. You have been listening to The Map on the Train, featuring Kevo Snell as Peter, Margaret Forster as Janice, Emily Toward as Sandra, Tony Weaver as Callum and Rory, Phil Jones as the Colonel, Mand Austin as Esme, Sheila Jennings as the young woman, and Max Jones as the narrator. The Map on the Train was written by Max Jones and recorded at the Old Nick Theatre Gainsborough by Sam Daniel. Original music was composed and performed by Gribbles. The editor was Gordon Craig. This has been a Workhouse Players production.